Watch what you say. All right, folks, so this is going to be a review on the test on the final exam. Okay, so the way this is set up, I have created a custom test for you. The test is available until Wednesday at noon. So if you get cold feet tonight and you don't want to do it, you could wait. However, you may just want to muscle through it after I go through this review so you can just bust it out and get it over with and done with while it's fresh in your mind. So I've made some really weird changes here in the test, which will probably be to your advantage. So there are there's going to be a selection of 33 possible questions. To get a 100%, you need to get 30 correct. So you could skip 3 of them and get a perfect score. And the reason why I've done that is because I've added several questions that were not in the original review. Okay? So sometimes students have a lot of questions about this, but basically there's a possibility of getting 3 bonus questions, or you could skip 3 questions and not get punished. Square?
Square.
All right. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to take you into test out, and you should be able to.
The screen's not on that. Maybe.
What is it? A, B.
There
we go.
All right.
A, B, up, down, left, right.
A, B, up, down, left, right. Left, right. No. Up, down, left, right. B, A, C, start.
All right, so this is going to be a custom exam. My screen is going to be different than your screen, but there should be a little number 1. If you look on your test out, don't click on it, or don't start the exam anyway, but you should see a number 1 or a number 2, depending upon how many tests you have available. Everyone should see at least a number 1.
Oh, okay, I see it on that. I got it.
And where is it, Brandon?
Above your operating system, you're going to see a red 1. Right
Yeah,
above.
I see it.
Okay.
I know where it was.
Yeah.
Point out to me where it is, Brandon, on my screen here. Just come up.
It's a little different.
Yeah, that one's different.
It is a little different.
So where would it roughly be?
Okay, so you have your courses right here. It should be roughly like right up in here somewhere.
Okay, so it'll be somewhere in.
Click on My Products tab. Go up, there you go.
Yeah, it would be
That's
right
what it
above
says.
those.
Yeah, it'll be like right up here somewhere.
Okay, so somewhere in this area. Some of you've already done this before, so it's like nothing. But if you don't know what you're looking for, it's a little obscure sometimes. All right, so this is going to be a custom exam, though, and in my case, this is going to be a little bit different. So the name of the exam is going to be the Final Exam 1615 Fall 2018 MAP HER. Okay? And I'm going to do something here. No, that's not what I want to do. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of this. Okay, so the selections of questions here are going to be from sections, whichever sections that I sent out to you in the review itself. So 7, 5, 6, 7, 11. Yeah. And I've added several others from the very beginning here. But what you can see is there's some questions. This one's about malware, There's a lab here that's going to be about connecting IP config. Okay. There's one here that's going to be about configuring the device driver. How many of you have ever configured a device driver before? Where would you go to configure a device driver or to update it?
Device manager.
Device manager, right. Okay. There's a lab here. Windows 7 user interface. Windows tools can be accessed in various ways. You'll be asked to complete specific tasks. So this is a very basic one about setting up the screensaver, setting a default printer, disabling a network adapter, using File Explorer to manage files, changing the boot timeout, using administrative tools, and then...
Can you scroll up really quick so I can take pictures of everything?
Nope. Yeah, right here. Okay. So you want to create, you want to adjust an account for a person. Okay. In this one, we can look at the create a user account on Corp DC. They give you all of the information and some of the timeout information as well. Collection of a user's personal settings and data files, where's that at? And oftentimes, this one is the one that gets in the way of people when they're backing up their computers. Multiple times this year, I've had a person who brought in their computer and their user profile didn't get moved over appropriately, and so they lost some of their settings. Okay, so that's more about users. Minimum password links. Okay, so let me come in here. This one's about file recovery. And so some of you have used the backup and restore, but there's a couple of different versions of that. So just kind of keep some of that in mind. All of these things were in the review before, and I think practically speaking, if you can back up a computer, it's probably one of the more valuable skills for you to be able to have. Because then you could absolutely wreck the thing if you were confident that you could put it back to the way that you had it. So one of the problems that you have, like with these computers in front of you, is that you don't have any control over that. And so if you were to do something to your own data, you're at the mercy of somebody else. So if you're working with your own home computer, though, that's something you probably want to figure out. What's important to you? How are you going to keep it backed up, and where are you going to store that? So think house fires, think theft, think broken
Cats.
computers. Yeah, cats that climb on your keyboard and press the delete key a bunch.
Or lay on the keyboard and press every button that it can touch.
Okay, some scenarios. There's some scenarios that are in here. A couple of these other labs that you'll want to think about. Windows Update. Is there any way to update these things? What's the interesting thing about Windows Update between Windows 7 and Windows 8 and Windows 10?
Where it's located.
Okay, where it's located.
How to get to it.
Can you turn off Windows Updates now in Windows 10?
No.
Pretty much not.
It might have been even
What's the only way to, for sure, make sure you don't get any updates?
Just disconnecting the internet.
Yeah, unplug it, or don't pay your internet, like, service provider. My ISP called me today and said my credit card didn't work.
No.
Crap. So, he had the wrong credit card, but whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so there's there's different ways to do this. I'm one of the things you might want to be a little bit careful about is, depending upon the version of Windows that you're operating with, the idea of settings and control panels and things like that, they come and they go. And it's driving me crazy. How do you guys deal with that, Jeremy? Like,
Just deal with it.
yeah.
Workgroup's gone.
What's that?
Workgroup's completely gone now in the latest update.
Yeah, so
You have to use the settings because the control panel's going to go away.
yeah, so the settings is this guy over here. And it sounds like they're going to do away with control panel and changing all sorts of stuff. Has Edge been substituted out in 1809, Jeremy, or is that in the future?
Oh, will that go Chrome?
Yeah, they're going to move it to a Chrome-based browser.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Microsoft is going to Chrome.
Yeah, and
That was awesome.
and Chrome extensions will work with, with Edge. Does that mean it's not Edge anymore?
Wow.
So Edge is the web browser that was supposed to have replaced Internet Explorer, and it was supposed to be safer, faster, better.
It was the same thing, just different coat of paint.
So anyway, they've moved on to a Chrome-based web browser.
That is awesome.
Okay, so in those settings, though, if you go into the settings, this is where, and mine looks a little funky because we made it pink for some reason, but you can begin to see this is kind of your control panel, but you can search up here, you know, so if you wanted to search for users or what have you. But basically that's kind of taken the place of the control panel. I don't really do much digging around anymore in here. I type in Cortana in the type here to search, or I go to the settings and search there. I don't click. I just don't do it anymore. I hate it. I hate looking for stuff. Okay. Performing installation about RAID disk 1. Okay. Or RAID 1, I'm sorry. Windows 7. So there's several questions about Windows 7 on here. We'll need to know a little bit about BIOS. A little bit about updating Windows. Okay, you have a computer on a workbench without an operating system. You want to install Windows 7 32-bit. You have a 12 gigabyte free space on your hard drive, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here are some questions on printers, configuring default printers. Make sure the user group only has list folder contents and read on a test out folder. This stuff should be very familiar to you. You may not know the answers to it. You want to share 2 folders to make them available to other users on your network. We did that in class, like several times. This is the questions about creating users. What type of users can you create? You can create administrative users.
Regular users.
You can create regular users, and where would those user accounts be stored?
Wouldn't that be stored on your server? The Windows server?
Depends on how you have your system set up.
And explain.
If you're running a domain, they would be on the domain server.
Okay. Could you have domain server, domain administrators and administrators on your local computer?
Yes.
Yes. You just have to have the files separated from each other.
Yes. So why would you need a domain administrator and a local computer administrator?
In case at some point the computer cannot attach to the domain,
Right.
you can go in and fix that.
Right. So if it's not on the internet and you don't...
Is that how like we use like when you logged out and we turned off the internet and you logged back in and it kept your information?
That's caching. Okay? And it's a little bit different. It's stored locally, but only for about 30 logins. So it would work for about 30 times of logging in and out, and then it wouldn't work anymore. And I'm just making up that number because it's different in Windows 10. And there is a way to turn off caching at the network level, though. So you could make it so that if you're not on the internet or on the domain, you can't log in at all. And that's when you need the original login. So the original login, so imagine you turn on a computer for the first time. It doesn't know anything about anything at all. So you might need to tell it that it's a computer by logging into it and, you know.
Pretty much just building it from the top.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So remember, there's ways to change people's usernames so that their passwords or their accounts expire. Okay. Where's our user profile stored? Where's it stored at?
Thinking C drive?
Okay, so this PC,
Yeah.
C drive, and then
User.
go to users. Now where do I go?
Is that not it? Those are all the different users that have logged into that computer.
Okay, yeah, these are all the users and the user names of people who've actually logged in here. So where do I go? Where's the user folder for me?
Mapper.
Okay,
That's all your info.
and that's all my info in there. So
The computer's stalking you, Matt.
what's that?
The computer's stalking you. It knows everything about you.
Okay, all right. So a lot of the information is going to be inside of here, and that's pretty important, especially if you're working on somebody's computer, maybe trying to move over their data, because most of it's going to live inside their user directory, and their profile, their app data, is going to live inside of there, and the app data holds all the details about all the various applications they might be using.
Sometimes, though, certain data, if you don't know how you're setting up Windows, will be saved in the OneDrive.
Yes, very possible. How many of you use the OneDrive?
I use it for my Word
Yeah.
works, and that's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
When I first installed Windows 10, I didn't realize it was setting up to go to the OneDrive.
Right.
So everything that was saving was going to the OneDrive, until I was like, no, I can't afford more room.
Right. Right.
Why
And
isn't it being
so
saved to my local PC?
most of you should be using Google File Stream. So
That's what I use.
if you're not using that already, you probably should. And yes.
I ran into an issue with that yesterday.
Mhm.
It's not. I took files from my first computer build, put it onto the Google Stream, and pulled it down to the other
Mhm.
computer, but it did not move all the files.
It might not have completed it, so it might have been, just kind of, it was a task that it was trying to complete.
There was no indication that it was still trying to upload or download them.
Yeah, Google File Stream operates in the background.
Okay.
And so
Sometimes you have to go into it manually and boot up into it so you can actually see exactly what it's doing.
Yep. And
Okay.
I haven't loaded FileStream on this computer, but there's a tiny little icon
Mhm.
on the file or the folder when it's been synchronized.
Okay.
So the first time you do it, it almost looks like a little clock, and then after it's done, it almost looks like there's a little cloud on it.
Okay. So the cloud will be there when it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll give it another shot.
Yeah,
and
give it a
see
whirl.
what
Give it a whirl.
happens.
Because sometimes that gives you that space, and you can do that on your own personal computers too. Like you can go home and you can install FileStream. So if
It only works with your CWC account, though.
That's
unless
correct.
You have a business email. Because I tried my regular Hotmail, and it's like, no.
Just yell at you.
Yeah, it literally did.
Leave! Peasant! Slap you.
Okay, so drive FileStream. Here's where it's at. To use FileStream, you need to have a Google account through work or school that you're signed into. So if I come up here, I'm not signed in there. So I need to go into my CWC,
Pretty much.
and then I come in here.
Peasant. It probably like looks fun. It's like brings a finger down.
You just see the like this really awful graphic
No,
of
just
a
like-
finger.
No, what's it, like the overseer or whatever, just like leaves into the clouds.
Okay, so I did a quick Google search for file stream, and if I download for Windows, and I'll put it in my downloads, I've got Google File Stream. I'll launch it. I'll say yes.
No, say no. I'll say no.
Okay, this should only take a couple of moments. But once you've done this, this is a really great way to make a lousy computer. It's already installed. Okay, it's already there. So where is it? I don't know.
Should be under this PC. That's where mine is.
Nope.
No? Weird. That's where mine puts the drive.
And there's OneDrive. So anyway, it should show up as a drive down here next to your Windows C. I'm not sure why it's not doing that for us, but it'll just show up as a drive. Maybe I need to get logged into Google Drive first.
See if Cortana has it and watch it from Cortana. See if maybe they haven't launched it yet.
Go back. There you go.
Drive file stream. Okay, so I'm going to get signed into it. Sign in here.
Matt, I've noticed ever since we started this class, you remember your password better.
I am getting older, though. I'll just.
It's probably gonna have like one of those like phone books.
You say that now, Matt, but you watch, you're going to be like 50 years in the future, you're going to be 100 years old, and you'll be like, I'm still aging.
I'm still aging.
You're still here, though.
Okay, I don't know why it's not doing. Oh, there it
There's
is.
that. It's not pulling up the.
It's
There it
cool.
goes.
Okay. All right, so now I've got Google File Stream, and I have access to my drive. And this is similar to the OneDrive. So the OneDrive shows up by default because they really want you to use their tool. CWC is married to Google, and so there's my drive. There's the team drives. There's the computer tech for those of you who have access to that one. But I can go in and I can use this just like I would for...
As if it was already on my computer.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. So if I come in here and I look here at the web interface, and I go in here to the class, CMAP 1615. So you can see this is identical.
Yep.
But the best part is, so here's the document that we built, what I want to learn, and this is what it looks like if I double click it.
It
So-
looks like Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, it's pulling it up with Edge, unfortunately, so let's get rid of that. Close all. I haven't set the browser up on this one. So I can open it up with Google Drive, I can open it up with maybe Google Chrome. Give me Google Chrome.
No.
No, get that option.
Nope.
That's Google Drive. You're in program files and you being the x86.
Nah.
Can't reach it.
That's pretty funny. Oh, because it's supposed to open up with Word. that right? No, that's not the one I want. Okay. One more try. More apps. No.
No again.
Okay. We'll just leave it. But you can. I might need to reboot this thing. Can you see the little clouds next to that, though, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that is supposed to refer to the fact that it's been synced.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that with another file that has a lot of stuff in it and see what happens.
Yep. Okay. All right. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else that I want you to see here. There's more user account creation. Explore Windows 7 user interface and do a few tasks. You decided you wanted to upgrade your network adapter. You already installed the card in a free slot. At this point, you want to remove one of the other ones. It's going to ask you what to do in that case. Assign static IP addressing. And lastly, question about malware or an infection on your computer of some sort. All right, so this thing is 33 questions long, and again, you can see questions are coming from section 6, 7, 11, 6, 7, and 11, and then a couple of questions from section 1 and 3. Okay? And it looks like some from section 5. So, kind of a smattering of these things. And how many of you have actually had a chance to go through the review?
I didn't get a chance.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple. All right. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of like how difficult this is going to be, I'd give it a
5 from what I saw.
a 5. 5 out of 10. Okay. So this is not a certification test. For some of you in this class, I'm going to approach you and I'm going to ask you to take the, let's see here. Let me find it.
The OS certification, that one.
Test out Client Pro certification. And this one, it's a comprehensive test on everything in this class. And this one's similar to the Microsoft exam that some students would take. So if you hear from me, that's great. If you want to take it and I don't approach you, let me know. You've already paid for it with your test out subscription. So you don't have to take it today. You don't have to take it tomorrow. You could take it next month. You could take it next summer. But you will have to do that. You'll have to let me know so I can set it up for you. You don't need to come here to do it. You can do it from home.
But you won't chase us down, right?
What's that?
You won't chase us down.
Some of you I will. Because I think it'll be, well, for some of you I think it'll be important career-wise. For some of you, the reasons that you're taking this class are different. So if you want to become a hotshot networking person, this is probably something that should be of interest to you because this is like basics. It's not like you'd be doing all these things throughout the course of a day. Okay, questions about this? Questions about any Anything else? Okay, I have been, give me a second. So one of the things that I'm interested in is your product report by percent complete, okay? So it shows the percentage of each course that you have completed. I'm not interested in the amount of time that you spend here. I'm not interested in your videos. I'm not interested in most things. The only thing I'm really interested in is your simulations, so the labs, and the fact that you take the exams. Brandon, how much time have you spent in this class in the last 5 days?
Exactly.
Okay. A lot. You put a lot into it.
Yeah.
And how far along are you now?
I just have, 6 more labs that I have to do in 11, and I'm done with it.
Okay. So you've basically finished the whole thing in the last week.
I only had 19 and 11 to catch up on
Okay.
over the weekend, and that was it.
Okay.
I mostly had everything done within the
Okay.
semester.
Great. Great. So for those of you who are maybe behind or you want to catch up on some more points, there's plenty of time left for you to be able to make some serious progress. But again, I'm not counting videos. That just doesn't count towards the score, your score. So just keep that in mind. And there's a lot of ways for you to work your way through here. So Alex is a great resource. Jonathan's worked hard at this. Brandon, you're on top of it. Darlene, you've spent some time in here too. So. Okay. Well, and you're in this for different purposes than other folks in the classroom because it gets into a little bit of the weeds for your purposes. So, okay. Any questions on any of this? No? Okay. So, that's not where I want to go. I want to go here. Okay. Last thing that I want to show you is if I ask you to take the Client Pro practice exam or Client Pro certification test, this is where you can go. It's exam A.10, and that's where the practice exams are located for the test that you could take for a certification. You'll also notice that there's MS 70-698, -697, -680, -680. There's all sorts of exams that you could begin to want to take. I discourage you at this point from getting too crazy about this. Brandon, hold on. So I discourage you from trying to take all these exams until you kind of know which direction you're going to be moving in. And oftentimes employers will pay for these sorts of things. So if you go into a job interview and they say, well, Darlene, we know that you'd like to be an admin assistant, but we'd really like for you to take the MS 70-698 Microsoft exam. What do you think about that? And the answer is, oh, I'd be willing to do that. And then you'll go home and study like mad.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's probably the best approach. So to say that you don't have that certification is fine as long as you follow it up with, I'm totally willing to go get certified or do the work to get that thing. Okay? All right. So that's the one. That's the one you paid for. These other ones are for the Microsoft thing. Okay, last thing I wanted to tell you. You keep your Test Out Client Pro for 18 months from when you purchased it. So if you purchased it in September, what does that mean? You'd have it until roughly March of 2020. Is that right? And Test Out tells you when your license will expire. So it gives you, I mean, by that point in time, this is going to be irrelevant anyway, and there'll be new stuff out there, so you won't want to be digging around in this. Okay, questions? Okay, so the exam is available, so you can take it if you want to now. You can do a little bit more studying. I don't really have any advice for you at this point. I think, for most of you, you know what you're going to know at this time. You got other things on your mind, so the longer you wait, maybe the more difficult it's going to become for you. So, anyway, thank you. And for everybody in the class, thanks for your energy. This is a really hard class for me to teach just because people are on so many different levels here. And I don't know the best way to do it, but if you have questions, let me know. We'll try to figure something out. Okay.